Welcome to the Umineko Bookclub podcast. Oh, fuck. Okay. Oh, my God. Episode 3, and I already, tripped. I didn't even try to hit the ground running. Welcome to the When We Cry podcast, book club. Fuck. Welcome to the Umineko. Welcome to the When We Cry. I should have written this down, but I never learned.
Yeah, I actually don't know how you just wing it every week.
Welcome to the When We Cry book club podcast. Okay, wait. Welcome to the When We Cry Umineko no Nakukoro ni book club podcast. I am your host, Lorenzo. Fuck. We are finally on book club part 11. We are covering the beginning of episode 3. Woo!
Finally!
I am your host, Lorenzo. Everybody else, introduce yourselves.
I am Ambi.
I am Des.
I'm a mushroom. Oh my god! I'm gonna die here. This is so bad.
Everyone's messing up today.
Okay, this is really funny because on the first episode Ambi recorded, if I recall correctly, Ambi also messed up and introduced himself as Mushroom, and now you, Mushroom, messed up and introduced yourself as Ambi.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Perfect.
This is why me and Mushroom are friends.
So yeah, I'm really excited about AP3. I know that we recorded an episode with my other friend, which we're gonna dub them Dubs, who's reading EP3 right now, and they're almost at the ending, and I just realized what a minefield EP3 is. So I'm looking forward to it. Like red herring, foreshadowing.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like it's great.
It's very on a reread. I mean, for you people who haven't read the entirety of Umineko no Nakukoro ni, what's wrong with you? But on a reread, there's so much stuff that goes past you, and then stuff you thought you'd be hung up on, but end up being red herrings.
Meaning nothing. Yeah.
It's very dense, but very good for reviewing and talking about. Anyways, how are you all doing? What's going on in your lives thus far? Anything special, interesting, boring?
I guess I'll use this space just to say that I have noticed I swear a whole bunch on episodes, so I'm gonna try to keep those in a bit.
Why? Do you want to swear less?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I feel like all I do is swear. Instead of getting my sentences out, I just spend half of my sentence just saying fucking all the time. Instead of saying yo, I really like bread, I'm like, yo, I fucking really fucking like bread. And why would I waste half my phrase saying fucking and shit and stuff, It's so inefficient.
Oh my god, how could you? My virgin ears. Oh. I guess you could substitute it with frickin' or even a Portuguese swear so we can't tell.
I just think I understand that that's meaning by 20% of that sentence was completely useless. But I guess a good way of thinking about swearing is to not overuse it, because a good time swear is hits really good.
Yeah. I didn't I'm not trying to not swear. I'm just trying to swear less, to not overswear.
Oh, swear in the good spots. Okay, I have something I want to talk about. Okay, so the first thing is that back in last year's summer, I donated money to the bundle for racial justice. Mm-hmm. So I've been just carving my way through the games in there. So my recent endeavor is Celeste.
Is this the one that was it had hundreds of games?
Yeah, 3,000 games.
Yeah.
In it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's a big backlog.
Yeah, and I should have told everybody to do it just because I donated $20 in. You get Celeste and Night in the Woods, which are both $20 games.
Yes, exactly. I got that too.
Yeah,
well.
So I'm playing Celeste, and Celeste is exactly not the type of game I like, but I just finished beating it.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, Celeste is basically the mountain is a metaphor, and the metaphor is depression. And halfway through the game is I'm climbing this mountain because I have problems, and maybe it'll give me some kind of accomplishment, and maybe I'm trying to finish this just so I can feel I have did something. And I was like, what the fuck, is this game calling me out right now?
When the game plays the player.
Exactly. So the Celeste has been a good time. I finished chapter 7, and now I'm just going back to get all the strawberries and trying to unlock B-sides, but it's really hard on my fingers, and it's pain. And because I have a keyboard cover, a rubber keyboard cover, I actually dug 2 holes in there because I was
Nice.
playing it. So like in my C and both my C and my up arrow key both has a holes in it, like 2 holes in it, because it's just like, because my finger like nails would like dig into it, and I had to cut my fingernails to like not like completely destroy
You had
this.
to cut your fingernails to play the fucking
I
game.
know, wow. The game's physically changing you.
It's really okay, Des, if you think I'm joking, it is hard because you can't even like be in a conversation and play at the same time. So sometimes I'm just like, I just play it every night for like an hour a day, but like there will be rooms that I will basically die like 100 times. Like I would literally do one room for an hour because it would just be that hard. I think I currently have 2,000 deaths for like 20 hours of Celeste. Like,
No, I totally get it. If you look at my play log for Fire Emblem Awakening, it says I played it like 600 times and I've only played it for 45 hours because I always save scummed. So don't feel bad. I've done worse. And I didn't realize until like later on that you could just like bookmark the battle and then like restart it that way without like resetting the whole game. That's on that. Fire Emblem sucks. Alrighty, so we're about to get into the meat and potatoes of episode 3. Actually, not even the meat and potatoes. This is the appetizer. It's the beginning, but it is still very meaty.
It's the soup. We're at soup.
Yes, we're at soup. We're drinking the Umineko soup, like Rosa did at the tea party. It was like her siblings' blood and guts soup.
Yummy.
Anyways, episode 3. Welcome. For those of you who haven't read Umineko, who are still reading through Umineko, you're in for a wild ride. For those returning, Jesus, that's all I gotta say.
yes, banquet time.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome to the banquets, thus the food metaphors. But we will be covering we will have a non-spoiler discussion of the first part of episode 3, and then we will give you a notification to log off if you haven't read past that part, or haven't read the rest of Umineko, because we're going to dive into full series spoilers. But in the meantime, sit back, enjoy the ride. We will be rambling about Umineko episode 3, Banquet of the Golden Witch.
Yay.
Okay,
So-
let's start.
Yes. The episode, when you click on it, there's a little flavor text that tells you, "Good morning. This is a surprise that even you do not surrender because Battler, as you saw, almost gave in to the Golden Witch."
Fucking dumbass.
Yeah, it was very dramatic. He got kind of kinky for a second, but then he returned, and now he's back for more.
He's no longer horny.
The Golden Witch has exceedingly high expectations of you. Have you perhaps come to realize the structure of this world? There can be no victory without knowing the rules. Please enjoy a hearty game with the witch. The difficulty level is fair for you and fair for the witch. Now, for first-time readers, this could totally mean nothing to you. But, this isn't really a spoiler at this point, but if you've noticed, the beginning of every chapter says that each episode has a difficulty level. And if you don't yet know, it's a message from Ryukishi / the author of the story to you, inviting you to try solving the mystery. And for this episode, there are some truths, some bits of magic that is revealed to you that can help you solve the mystery. Let's dive in.
Lettuce.
Yes, lettuce. Cabbage diving.
Oh my God, no. It truly is the banquet of the Golden Witch.
The episode opens up with a mansion scene that doesn't quite look like the Ushirimiya mansion that we are familiar with, but it seems to be a first-person account of a young person who's reminiscing about their childhood, curiously inspecting and breaking Grandpa's favorite vase. This person's like, "I was told not to touch it, so I did."
This POV is from Child Link. I have sold it.
Oh, because he,
Yeah,
he has an
exactly.
impulsive desire to break everything.
He
Yes,
breaks the law.
this is actually the Legend of Zelda's prequel. This is why you have to break absolutely everything.
Pretty cool. Everyone
It's
wanted.
not the Legend of the Golden Witch.
Umineko no Nakukoro ni The Legend of Zelda. So, young Link goes and breaks a vase as they usually do. In pops in a character named Beatrice, but she doesn't look like Beatrice. She's not the same Beatrice we know and love. It's some like Brock Pokemon looking hag instead. She's dressed up like the tall lady from Resident Evil Village, which at the time of this recording hasn't come out yet, but I'm going to play TF out of it. Yeah, she's called Beatrice or Beatrice. But she doesn't look Beatrice. Sorry, we're just gonna go the whole book club just calling her Beat Rice, huh? Gray Beat Rice. I call her Gray Beat Rice at this point. Comes in, consoles the little girl, calls her young princess, and touts that believing in magic can fix this vase that she just broke. And then this is the first scene we get to see magic in action, directly see magic happen. It's pretty magical.
This is the first time we hear the magic words that we're gonna hear so many times during the story that I fucking love.
Oh my god.
I have heard this word so many times. I have fucking memorized it. It's just like Sasa meu toshite guranasai.
Oh damn, you were not kidding. You really weren't kidding. Holy shit.
That's
Wow,
impressive.
That's amazing. That's a 10 out of 10 good performance.
Qualified Golden Witch speech.
Yes. Get used to hearing catchphrases because a lot of iconic lines are introduced here in episode 3. So prepare yourself. Again, this is the first scene we see magic in action. The sa-sa, whatever just said, occurs. But in English, Beat Rice tells the young princess to try closing her eyes. Remember what form the vase had, and surely it was a very beautiful form. Please show me that form one more time. And if you haven't realized, Ryukishi does his very distinct style of writing and has a very roundabout but whimsical way of describing magic. It works for the magical spells, not so much for the English prose, but it wasn't made for us in the first place, so whatever. Gray Beat Rice and the princess leave the mansion. The vase has been fixed. The crisis has been averted. I call her GB at this point because it's easier to say. OBGYN Beatrice lets the princess know that her magic could only temporarily fix the vase and how it's destined to break. So eventually it's going to break, and then a stray cat sneaks in and re-breaks the vase, as you hear from outside the mansion. Restorative miracles and magic are apparently really hard to pull off, but breaking and killing is far easier, and pog. It's kind of deep when you think about it, how easy it is to break things, but it takes a monumental amount of effort to repair them.
Man, this is so deep.
I know. So OBGYN Beat Rice says that her own witch master probably had the magical power to fully restore the vase and called her Magic Endless, where she can create a world full of mending and where breaking and losing things never actually happens. They go about how sadness comes from separation and loss, and the best way to prevent that is to revive everything forever. The princess vies for this endless witch power and wants eternal happiness, but OB Beat Rice says that it's a long and arduous path and vets the young princess's resolve and takes her in as her witch apprentice. Ooh, spooky. We cut to the Golden Witch Beatrice, the one that we are familiar with, reminiscing on this flashback, saying how she's the man now, dog, that she is now the endless witch, and refers to the OG Beatrice as teacher or sensei if you're a weeb, and also alludes to the teacher as if she's not around anymore. Beat Rice complains that the eternal bliss has now become eternal boredom now that she's got the eternal magic on lock, but this eternal boredom is essentially eternal torture, which is a witch's greatest weakness.
Yeah.
So now you see her playing the game with Battler, as we've seen in the past couple episodes. But you see what the problem is? The problem is perspective. She's got this boy toy to vibe with and shoot the shit about murdering his family, so that's kind of cool, right? In the same room, those demon schoolgirls we've gone to know and love, which at this point you've probably read their profile in the tooltips in the Umineko menu. They're anime versions of the 7 deadly sins named after their respective demons. They are edgy demon edgelords. They're having a gorgy with Battler over and over.
Gorgy is the best.
I mean, pretty much. She revives him, and the anime girls like peg him back to a pulp, and then right next to Beatrice, in front of her salad. It's pretty kinky. And like in a twisted version of the Sasa, I won't say the rest, but the twisted version of the magical words. Yeah.
Stop. We can't just recite this every single time it happens.
I know, we should just like have a voice clip of you saying the whole speech, and then we just like insert it every time it gets mentioned.
And then every time it is mentioned, it just speeds up.
Why would you take away from me the joy of being able to say it?
Okay, we won't do it for the sake of brevity, but Beatrice uses a twisted version of the magic that was mentioned by the old Beatrice to bring Battler back from being a spaghetti mess. And during the torture, whenever they revive him and like beat him back to a pulp, they recite red truths that defeated him in the last game, which is, I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool.
I think that's cool.
I also think it's very cool the way Ryukishi phrases all of this talk about boredom and bliss, and I just really like the turnarounds he does with the concepts.
Oh yes. So in this meta world, quote unquote, which is what we call it, I don't know if it's like a spoiler or not to call it a meta world.
I don't think it's a spoiler.
It's not really.
Yeah, okay, cool. It's called the meta world, and like throughout the interactions in the meta world, you kind of like learn about storytelling like as a whole. It's meta. I mean, it's in the name, but it's kind of meta. It gives you a meta storytelling about storytelling, if that makes any sense, right?
Yeah, because like I don't think it's even mentioned in the story even once that this is called the meta world.
Yeah,
We the fans just call it the meta world because it is that meta.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting conversation I had with my friend Dubs about this. So like I was telling him that because he doesn't talk to anybody outside of the fandom, or he doesn't read anything about the fandom, he doesn't actually know any of the terms that the fandom like begins to adapt to. For example, like he doesn't. That's why I told you guys to not use the word meta world on the episode, not on this one, but the one that we did with him, because he never used the words meta world. He just used to call it purgatory or purgatorio, because that's what it's referred to in the very first episode. But there's like even more examples that I can mention later, but I will reframe them from now.
That's good. I think it's really impressive. I mean, like, I don't know if he's going to listen to it, but I think it's really impressive you haven't mentioned that it's called the meta world. You're letting, like, your friend, or Dubs, I guess, for you listeners out there, formulate everything from scratch.
Oh yeah, no, I would ask him. I would be like, hey, do you want to know what it's called? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay.
Homie moment.
It's pretty funny that way.
If you guys are looking for a reading buddy, I nominate Mush to help chaperone you on your first read through of Umineko.
Yeah.
That's how I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. I chaperoned Ambi the whole time. It was really bad because I remember we would used to stay up until like 3 o'clock and I would read Ambi, Umineko.
Like a bedtime story.
It's 3 a.m. Ambi, time for your
I'm
bedtime.
No, like if you think that's joking, but that's like so true though. That's literally what happened. So like we would literally be on like 5-hour-long Skype calls because we had nothing else to do. For some reason, we always called on Skype.
This was before Discord.
This is before Discord. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I used to Skype all the time too. I don't know, but that's amazing. You had like an Umineko nightcap, like.
Yeah, we would just read for hours, and I remember being like, Ambi, do you get this now? And Ambi's like, could you explain this to me? And I was like, Ambi, were you paying attention for the last 2 hours?
Yeah, I have a very smooth brain, so I need everything explained to me.
Oh, honestly, me too. Like, again, as I've mentioned before, I didn't even try to solve the mystery until the answers started happening before my eyes. But that's a talk for another time. Shall we continue?
We shall. We haven't even got to Eva yet.
Yes, the episode 3 opening happens. It's the same as episode 2, I think. So no real comment on that, aside from the fact that it's always a banger.
It's always a banger.
Yes, we see the Ushiramiyas on their boat on the way to Rokenjima, I think. Yeah,
Boat ride!
Yeah, boat ride scene. Again, get used to those. The 3 siblings present on the boat, Ava, Rudolph, and Rosa, all formulated a secret contract to extort money out of Cross, as seen in the previous episode. They think that Cross is being sussy, as the kids say, because he's become the de facto head since... I know.
Don't shut up.
So, since he's become the... They think Cross is sus because he's red. He wears red... You know,
We're gonna just stop. I have censored the whole Higurashi Log episode. Every time someone mentioned fucking Among Us, please do not make that thing happen again on the fucking.
It's okay.
The thumbnail for this video is gonna be Kraus Sussy. I said it.
Yeah. Has anyone found an Among Us character?
Oh yeah, there's actually a lot of Umineko Among Us.
There's a lot of Among Us references in Umineko.
Not that. Oh, okay, anyway, I also just think one of my favorite things is when Rudolph and Hideyoshi are talking about, like, oh, we really need money. Like, you know, like, we are both men and we need to get money to support our family. And they were like, Eva had Rudolph and Rosa for alliance, and they were scheming to take the money away from Cross. Hideyoshi said, Rudolph, both you and I are company presidents. We're responsible for the livelihoods of our employees. And then Rudolph just says, well, if Rosa's a president too, well, as a hobby.
I know. Oh my god. I wrote that in my notes too. She was like, Rudolph shits on her. They're like, we're all presidents of a company except Rosa. She's a pretend president.
Yeah, I just think that's such a fucking shade.
No, yeah, it says a hobby because her full occupation is being sad.
I mean, okay, bitch, you saw her, you should have seen her, eat your metaphorical remains, honestly, right? In the Tea Party,
Yeah, I just think I think it just sucks because, Rosa is just such a, tiny baby in their minds, and they're like, what could Rosa do?
Yeah, she's a punching bag.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, she's just doing this whole, president thing as a hobby. It's just so condescending.
Damn, it's her fucking job. Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, Rudolph and Hideyoshi are shooting the shit and talking shit about Rosa, I guess, and they discuss their plan and how Ava's low-key, high-key bitter about how Kinzo and Krause's sexism basically pushed her out of the running for headship.
Yeah.
And we cue a flashback of Kinzo and Krause being horrible and sexist to Ava, saying that girls are too dumb for school. They're just scared that she's going to crush their balls with facts and knowledge and kung fu.
Exactly.
But that basically makes Ava obsessed with the power and her namesake because she is a girl boss. Gaslight, gatekeep, all of that. You should also notice that she's been sporting the bangs even as a high schooler, which, I don't know. It's a minor detail, but bangs, just, they're there to stay.
Thanks, Lorenzo. Are you trying to confess something? What is this?
What? Bangs? Bowl cuts? Bowl cuts are my turn on. No, not really.
It's okay. That actually reminded me of something else. My favorite type of girl haircut is it's not the Hime cut, but it's the one, Hime cuts are nice, but it's the one without the two sides on the face. Those are the best kind of haircuts. They're so cute, and I think
so Bern Castells.
Yes, Bern Castells, but I do not like Bern Castell. Bern Castell is not my pick. But I could think of a
It's what you described.
Yes. But the hair, but no, I like that kind of hair, but specifically black usually. I can't.
Okay.
So I could think of 5 characters, that girl from Snafu, My Teenage Romance Snafu, Yuki Shita Yuki, the girl from Hyoka, my type. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Got the mental image. As again, bank supremacy.
Bank supremacy, exactly.
Yes, I agree with that statement.
So Kinzo comes in and basically dispels not dispels, he stokes the flame of the argument between Krause and Ava. He says that Ava's duty as a woman is to birth a male heir, and her outrageous progressive worldview gets her disinherited before Kinzo starts having a coffee.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this what a disgusting lib shit.
I know, right? She also Kinzo literally calls, I mean not literally, but he basically calls Krause a pussy and Ava a butch, and that the family's a whole disgrace and has this whole coughing fit.
Yeah, I think it's really funny because Kinzo basically comes in and then looks at both of them, and then Eva thinks her father might back her up, and he just turns around and it's shut the fuck up, you both.
I know, right? He also slaps the shit out of Krause, which is a pretty good scene, I think.
It's a really good scene.
And cue young Ava sprite, new character art, amazing, crazy. That means keep an eye on her, I guess. She reflects how she wants to basically break the gender barrier and be the girl boss she intends to be. She really said that people born with gender really can't do anything about it. Wow, Ava, gender queer queen. She makes a promise to herself that she will become the Ushiramiya head. This is the birth of her imaginary friend, which is herself, which is, I wasn't gonna say sad, but it's a little.
I mean, I wouldn't say she has an imaginary friend. I think that's just.
It's more like a motivator, in her brain. It's one of the things I like about it is that young Eva, which is I guess she's maybe 14, middle school Eva, is basically her passion, her ambition. It's where all her dreams were the most like solidified. Like I imagine like she like Eva had to basically like round her edges and like file down her like scales to like basically go into society, which she actually talks about in here, which is that how she was like, well, like she fought forever just to go to college, and she was like, well, if I can't make myself the head of the family, and then at least I can give birth to the next head.
Right. Sorry, that sounded a little weird, but I totally get what you're saying.
But that's what. But that's what she says.
Yeah, she does. She does. I don't know. Just those words,
those words
inherently sound weird.
I know, it's fine. It's Lorenzo. Yesterday, my roommate and I were making like chicken skillet, and then I think we said something like, "You're raising some breasts up here" or something, or like it was, or like. We be serving breasts up here.
Pretty much.
But it's about chicken skillet.
I don't know. Some words are just dirty. They don't even have.
This is why I need to come and visit you.
Exactly.
Some words aren't dirty, but they just sound dirty. You know, like.
Lorenzo, that's because you have a fucking filthy mind. That's filthy.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm a dirty boy.
Never use the phrase "happy ending"
Yeah.
when you're telling a story.
There's no such thing as happy endings. But anyways,
Wait, while we're still on this scene, I'd just like to say two things.
Yeah.
First is Mush. I liked your interpretation, but I'd like to present mine, which is that Eva doesn't have like an imaginary friend or like an imaginary supporter. I would say that's just the representation that the story wants to give of Eva just reflecting upon her life.
Oh, yes.
I agree.
Just like her thinking about her past, but instead of just being a monologue, the story gives you a character there, and present day Eva and past Eva just kind of have an exchange there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it.
I agree too. I actually think that's a really good way to read the scene, because I imagine it's more like she just has a lot of, not guilt is not the word, regret. Like literally like young Eva is just like a manifestation of the regrets she has in life, which is like I should have been fucking head, and that's just what it is.
It's like you guys are reading my notes. I basically called her a personified version of her resolve. So pay attention every time the young Ava character sprite is on screen, because as we see later, like in the next few lines, she's basically Ava is having a conversation with herself, aka the character sprite, about, you know, overcoming her insecurities and becoming the true head of the Ashura-miyas, and how Kinzo and Kraus are just absolutely secreting toxic masculinity. And her catchphrase, I don't know if Jess wants to chime in. Yes, Shinjaiba. I can't say it right. Shinjaiba. She kind of has like this very unique growl to it. Like,
Yeah.
I love Ava's voice actor. She's amazing.
Yes.
Catchphrase
Oh
queen.
yeah, also shout out to the great voice acting for Eva, to both play young Eva's voice and old Eva's voice, and it still makes it like perfectly like sound like two distinct characters talking to each other.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
chef's kiss. Amazing.
Yeah, while we're still on Eva in this scene, the other thing I would just like to say is that there's a subtle yet very important difference in the way Eva is arguing with Kraus here, because it's not just that she isn't as aggressive as she is in the present day, because if you look at how she structures her arguments against Kraus, it's like in the present day, from what we've seen on EP 1 and 2, she's always on the offensive. She's like, okay, where am I gonna strike this man next? Like, where are this man's weak points? Whilst in the past,
twist and pull.
she was much more defensive. She was just like, yo, you're wrong, and here's why you're wrong. But like, against fucking Kraus, logic doesn't work. And so like, she has evolved past that to the point where she's just like, logic ain't getting me nowhere. I'm just gonna strike this man where it hurts.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because Eva, young Eva, how she argues with Kraus is like, you feel like she feels like she could like reason with him. Like she's like, but like, you are being sexist, and I could do the things that men could do, and he's just like, shut up, you dumb woman. And now now current Eva, how she argues, it's just like, shut up, you stupid man, you don't know jack shit. Like, let me school you.
Yeah. It's almost like she uses that to her advantage. Whilst in the past she would be like, no, you're wrong, I'm a woman, but I can also do good things. In the present day, she's just like, yeah, I'm a woman, and I'm better than you, as we can clearly see, so shut up, Kraus.
I think everyone is better than Kraus.
Yeah. he's kind of a cunk. But anyways, as we see later on in the conversation between Ava and her younger self, she still believes in her resolve to overcome the barriers that society and her father and brother imposed on her, preventing her from going upwards. And young Ava mentions her magical ability that simply believing in herself, it can become true, or by the power of miracles, they'll become true. We cut to Ava snapping out of her dream, reminiscing of her past and her conversation with her younger self. The boat lands, everybody leaves. Ava shows a more timid, tender side of herself and asks Hideyoshi if they fucked up and raised George to be an absolute mama's boy. And Hideyoshi's like, yeah, whoops. But Ava really feels guilty about birthing George for the express purpose of obtaining headship. Like, initially, I think she genuinely loves her son, but she's feeling guilty now that she's at the family conference where a lot of her emotional energy and is spent, and a lot of her, I guess, her grudge resurfaces. As you see, it seems that her conversations with her younger self occur more frequently upon the family conference time of the year.
Yeah. Because she can't get her mind off of, those
Her past,
topics.
Yeah, the scene that we just saw, like, is probably coursing through her mind every time she's on the boat, every time she's, like, at this annual family conference. But Hideyoshi comes with this big dick energy and tells her to calm down, covers for her anxiety by telling everybody else that she's going through menopause. What a Chad, I guess.
Oh yeah, I also I just remembered to mention this, but one of my favorite things about earlier this scene is where where like Hideyoshi's talking to Rudolph, and Rudolph is like, well, like, your wife is kind of a bitch, and then Hideyoshi's like, that's not really true, like, she is like a really kind and nice person, like way more mellow when she's not on the island. Only when she comes to the island she brings out the more like sharper and aggressive side of her, and
the bitchy side of her.
Yeah, the bitchy side. And then Rudolph is like, is that true? Like, I don't know, man, I know her all my life and she was a kind of a bitch. And he's like, yeah, because all of your family members
you were bitches.
Like, yeah, exactly, like everybody in your family basically just brings out the worst of her. And he's like, oh, I didn't know that. And I just think that's a very funny conversation.
Yeah, so I like that characterization. Like, she's probably, I mean, like, honestly, everybody's probably fine on their own, but we only, as the readers, we only get to see how they are in this 2-day window. So
That's actually something I wanted to touch upon, because I read this sentence and I was like, I cannot imagine Eva being anything other than how she is on the island. It's just so weird to think of Eva as a more calmer person, because like Eva for me is this fucking bitch we see on the island. Even when she's not being a bitch, she always has this big personality. You know?
Upon setting foot on the island, Ava hears the faint voice of her younger self call out to her, and as usual, the typical seagull cries can't be heard, foreshadowing something.
And then somebody said to her, welcome back, which was even more scary, I guess.
I know, it's super ominous. It like blacks out the whole screen so you can
feel it.
Be in Ava's shoes and hear the influence of her obsession with becoming the head coming to a head, I guess. We cut the cousins and Shannon on the island talking about Battler's 6-year absence. It takes a bit of time for all of them to get familiar with each other, as we've seen in the past 2 episodes. But Jessica and Shannon seem to remember him pretty well, and George and Maria are too stupid and baby to actually remember what he looked like, I guess. Shannon recounts Battler's cringe moment from 6 years ago to jog his memory. It was basically something about him proposing to her as a 12-year-old, and it deadass like jumps to a shot of the whole island and he's just screaming out of cringe. I felt that.
Yeah, and he says something like, I'll be back, see you again, surely coming to riding a white horse. And then they're like, wow, Valor, you were so cringe. Could you just imagine you white knighted some girl when you're like fucking 6 years old?
I like how Butler is so fucking ashamed of being cringy, but then right after that he lets out another one of those phrases.
Exactly. He goes, what was it? It was sorry, I'll get to that later, but that's exactly right. He goes into a very cringy catchphrase moment.
Yeah.
But all the cousins are like, cringe happens are a part of growing up. You become a cringe lord when you're in middle school, so you're not a cringe lord hopefully later in life. But
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or you will never grow out of your cringe lord phase and then just march into adulthood with absolute no shame.
it becomes apparent to Battler that George and Shannon have a thing going on.
So he just like whispers to like Jessica.
Yeah, he's like, oh man, I had the hots for her when I was a young 12-year-old, but I guess good for them. And then Jessica and Battler start talking. Battler asks if Jessica's also interested in a boy and suggests that it's probably the canon whom they met earlier off screen. Jessica's like, oh yeah, I tried asking a boy out, it didn't go well. And then Battler's like, yeah, it's probably because you're too much like a dude. Lol.
What a cringe thing.
Yeah, Butler is so okay. Yeah, in this whole beach scene, Butler gives off massive sexist vibes. But like, to be fair, fucking dude living in the 80s.
Yeah, it's also a theme of the episode, just sexism keeping you from doing stuff.
I think like I really like this because like there's gonna be even more massively cringe scenes, which is the scene that I before like cropped and sent to Des.
Yes.
That is like such a cringe scene. Like I think it's really great because like EP3 is just filled with these moments. Like there's a lot of I actually think it's perfect balance between Umineko talking, like basically having characters doing like super toxic masculinity shit, but then at the same time being super vulnerable. Because like Battler cries a lot, which I appreciate. Like it's like because like I feel like I had this conversation with Dubs about it, but like it's very often times when intelligent characters are shown to be like emotionless or calculating or logic, and like if you want to be smart you have to abandon all emotions, but like it's really clear in Umineko that's not very true. Like for example, like Eva is very smart but she's very passionate, like she's angry, she's aggressive, and that doesn't make her less smart. Like Battler is like smart but like he's also extremely emotional, like because these are his fucking family and he just cries all the time, but like that doesn't mean that he's gonna like stop thinking or like stop arguing. And I think that's great. Like there's no character that's like the I'm a smart person, that's why I'm an emotional motionless jerk.
Yeah, I think the closest you get to that is Kirie.
Oh yeah, yes. Kirie is more like a level-headed smart person, but I would say the only person that's actually a motionless jerk is like Bert Costello.
Oh my god. I was going to go slightly off topic, but you're mentioning how like the characters are smart or like, they're likable protagonists, but they're also vulnerable. It reminded me of a tweet where somebody said quarantine made them feeling like a sim, where it takes them 6 hours to cook spaghetti, and if something gets in their way, they start crying. that's pretty much what happens. Like something gets in their way, they start breaking down.
My friend also said this to me. My friend was like, she's like, sometimes I feel like I'm a forgotten sim, where like I like somebody just put me on like staring into the window mode, and then I just sit there and stare into the window for 4 hours.
At me dying of embarrassment. But that's Umineko in a nutshell. Something gets in their way, they break down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, aside from that, Battler talks to Jessica about her relationship status, tells her she acts too much like a dude, says, hey, did you try asking Cannon out? And she's like, about that. But then Battler mentions that Shannon and George and Jessica and Cannon's respective relationships, it kind of like has this roadblock of becoming a sort of like their status gets in the way of their relationships. Like he doesn't think their family would fully approve of that, as evident in the past episodes. But Battler comforts Jessica, and Deadass says, love is love. It's
love is love.
All about heart. See you again. Have a nice day. Another cringe quote moment, as Des previously mentioned.
Yeah.
And Jessica's like, dude, get a load of this cringe lord. And all the cousins dogpile onto him. But hold on to that quote. The see you again, have a nice day thing.
Good, classic, good line.
Classic Butler bullshit.
Oh, so good.
And Battler's like, okay, let's be friends. I bet after this typhoon passes, we'll be friends forever. And guess what happens in 2 seconds, Battler?
Typhoon.
The scene where the camera pans to the sky, Meta Battler exclaims, "Oh shit, no, let it end, oh my fucking god." And Beatrice says, "You wish, bitch." The third game's about to begin. So for those of you who have been listening and haven't finished Umineko no Nakakoro ni in its entirety, I guess, thank you so much for sticking with us. We will begin discussing full series spoilers, so if you haven't read past this point or the whole series, please log off. In the meantime, see cats, do crimes. See you later.
See ya.
Yay. Okay, so
Okay,
if you
cool.
want to talk about UP2.
I don't think I actually mentioned how Rosa knew the jig was up by the end and started freaking out and tried to like grab her gold and go, because I think at that point she realized that the island was going to blow up or something. But
Like, how does she know that? That's one of the things I don't know. I don't know if Rosa realized the jig was up when she saw Shannon's dead body, or it's like when she realized she got the last letter, right? But like the letter was
Right,
there.
right.
She was the one who took out the letter.
mm-hmm.
I just that's a scene that I don't really necessarily understand. I still like think about it because I'm like, oh, but there's a lot of parts of there's really good murders in EP3 that I'm really looking forward to
Yes.
because like it's retroactively amazing to talk about. But yeah, the beginning scenes of EP3 is so fucking telling. So yeah, do you want to talk about what's your guess for the first dream sequence?
Okay, so my interpretation about the World End Dominator scene at the end of EP2 is that I think we talked about this after you left, Mush, but okay, I think we established that everything Butler sees is because of that he's been drinking, and that's why he starts seeing demon and shit. But like, what happened with Genji is that Genji, up until midnight, Genji is still Sayo's servant, right? So
Yes.
Rosa, being Sayo's accomplice, she would know about the hidden gold and all of that shit, you know? So then Rosa would, after Butler left, and she was in the parlor with Maria, when,
Yep.
after some time, she would be like, okay, it's almost midnight, I'm gonna go talk with Genji, and like, get my money, get out of this island, and, go on with my fucking life. And so she goes up to Genji, and Genji's like, I'm sorry, Rosa, but up until midnight, I am still Sayo's servant, so I'm not gonna tell you where the gold is unless you find it yourself, because those are the rules Sayo, decided upon.
Damn.
And so Rosa,
That makes sense.
and then she's like, what the fuck am I gonna do now? Fuck, I'm gonna go get the fuck out of this island. That's the only thing I can do now. So she picks up Maria, goes up, picks up the gold, and then tries to leave. But there's a fucking typhoon around the island, and so she ends up dying. And what we see is just a metaphor for Rosa being unable to leave the island, because guess what? There's a fucking typhoon around.
Yep.
That makes sense. I think like that's a good valid way of reading about it. I think Rosa really just didn't realize that she was supposed to actually go find the gold and such.
Yep. Oh, I thought Kumasawa was like definitely behind almost everything, because she always had those weird monologues in the first 2 episodes, and nobody
she had
else
lots
does.
of weird,
I'm just like,
weird ass monologues.
yeah, she's like the meta character on Rokenjima. I'm like, why the hell is she getting all this? But I guess it was kind of a red herring. But I guess we can dive into what we just covered, because there was a little bit to suss out, I guess.
There's a lot of stuff. Okay, so let's talk about the first Kuadorian scene. So, I think most people read that scene as like young Yasu scene, but like you said, you think it might be second, like Beatrice the second.
I wrote it as BEA 2, the number 2, RICE, Beatrice. Beatrice.
Beatrice. God, I hate all of you. Why am I even on this podcast? Jesus. Okay,
Yeah,
continue.
sorry. Oops.
Oh, I got it. You called it Beatu.
Yeah, Beatu.
Beato. Okay,
Yeah.
so what about her? Like, so you think that scene could also apply to her?
Yeah, but I think a couple things that I got hung up on was the whole vase metaphor. This reminds me of Catcher in the Rye. Hate that book. There was a whole 1.5 page passage about a snow-covered fire hydrant, and I'm like, why the hell is this a thing that I'm reading with my eyes? And then they did the exact same thing with the vase in the beginning, and I was like, on the reread, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Because first of all, it's Grandpa's vase. So I guess it's young Yasu. Second of all, they recount that Grandpa said something so beautiful should never be touched. And like, way to live by your word, Kinzo, because guess who freaking does that? There's a lot of things that are set up by Kinzo, like the sexism stuff, that are all these boundaries that Kinzo sets that are broken by either himself or other characters, as you later see. But I thought the vase one was pretty, like, on a reread, of course, just sort of, now that we know what happens, bruh, Kinzo, what the hell are you thinking? Way to be a hypocrite.
Yeah, no, I think I mentioned this earlier up in EP2, but, like, Kinzo's sexism basically, like, fucks everybody over in a majorly way, and, like, basically everything Kinzo did basically planted seeds to, like, grow in later parts. Like, the whole part about, like, how Kinzo is sexist towards Eva, and that's why it drives Eva crazy. It's kind of funny to think about, like, how he's so misogynistic and, like, thinks, like, woman is worth nothing when, like, all his fucking fortune comes from, like, a random, like, a fascist sympathizer. Yeah. Just kidding.
Oops. I mean, not kidding. That's the truth. Oops.
It's fucking crazy when you start thinking about it, tracing it down and all. Like, pretty much all of the problems these characters have are a cascade that it all comes back to Kinzo.
It all comes back to Kinzo.
Yeah, he was an incel, and then, like, not like an actual incel, but he's kind of like a neckbeard in the beginning in his, like, World War II flashback, and then, like, it just gets exacerbated after Castiglione dies. Castiglione. I trust the European saying it.
I think, like, another thing that I think is really interesting about the Kuwadorian scene is that, like, I think it's interesting that, like, young Yasu must have been permitted to go to Kuwadorian then, because I don't think a lot of people were allowed to go to Kuwadorian.
Wait, can you repeat that?
Okay, so there's a few things interesting about the Kuwadorian scene. So, like, the Kuwadorian is like a hidden mansion, right? And not many people know about it. I don't even think many servants know about it. So, like, I think the only...
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed, because it is mentioned that there are other servants that go there besides Genji and Komasawa. So that was an interesting thing.
Okay, and also, I feel like, didn't Yasu only go to Kuwadorian later on? Didn't she only go back to Kuwadorian later on when she grew, like, she, like, found the mansion? Oof, I don't really remember what's the EP7 explanation or EPA explanation, if she always frequented Kuwadorian or not.
No, she was born, like, Sayo was born, then Kinzo took Sayo and gave Sayo to Natsuhi, then Natsuhi threw her off a cliff.
Yeah. But I just mean, like, after she became a servant, which is when she was, like, fucking 6 years old, did you think she went back to Kuwadorian? Or did she only found Kuwadorian when she was, like, maybe, like I don't know, 15? Or whatever, 17 or something?
Maybe.
We'll have to read the manga for it, but anyway. Or read through the later parts. But I think that scene could also just be applied that it happened in the main mansion. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that actually just happened in the main mansion again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that interpretation too, because that would make when everything comes crashing down on Sayo, just realizing, like, their hidden past and absolutely everything, all the bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it helps exacerbate their spiral into insanity.
I have something to add to your theory, Mushroom, about how this could be happening in the main mansion. Because if you think about it, what is Kuwadorian? Kuwadorian is the birdcage that Kinzo uses to trap Beato, right? Yeah. So, thinking about Beato as the conjunction of the three Beatos we know of, instead of Beato being Sayo, like, thinking about the plural Beato, you could say that, like, Sayo is in a way trapped by Kinzo because of Kinzo's actions.
Yeah.
So that could very well happen in the mansion, and Kuwadorian be a metaphor for how trapped she is because of Kinzo's actions.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to think about that, because basically in EP3, Beatrice, quote unquote, Yasu Beatrice is going to be taking in memories of Beatrice II and claim it's her own. For example, claiming the death of Beatrice II is her own, which I think will be interesting when we get there. But yeah, I there's still other scenes that we have to talk about. Let's talk about the whole young Eva, old Eva scenes. How do you like those scenes? Aren't they so great? I love them.
I like them a lot. Yeah, it's a very good way of characterizing Eva as a person, and makes you compartmentalize your opinion of her on a reread, because you realize young Eva is, childish. She has ambition, and she's going to get what she wants no matter the cost. And then adult Ava's like, oh, I don't know, or like, was it timid Ava is kind of like her softer side that you see between her and Hideyoshi, and you're like, and she's like, oh, I don't know, like, am I a horrible mom for just like doing all this just for a silly title? And then young Ava's like, oh yeah, no, do it. It's like worth it,
I feel like it's very interesting because whenever there are conversations between younger people and older people in fictional stories, it usually goes in this way. It's the younger person is like frustrated about how the older people have lost sight of their goals and are no longer, working towards them. And the older people are always looking down upon the younger people because they are, too blind about all of these other things they have to take into account that they are, blind to because they are young and don't know about many things, but like seeing this in the same person is very interesting because like it's you know exactly how you felt like at that time, and so it's an interesting scene. I like it.
Yeah, I think that just shows like an evolution in character. And I think it's interesting that you pointed out the whole subversion point of view with that, because with Ava, even though we see her as sort of like this really dominating character who like, I really hate to use this derogatory word, but it like sort of like quote unquote like bitchy, when we see her with her family, talking with her family, kind of bring out that part of her. But then we compare that to how we see her when with young Ava, and it just makes for very interesting dynamic.
For sure. I also wanted to, I don't know if we want to keep talking about young Ava and old Ava stuff, but I think another really important part of this story is the introduction of actual magic before the reader's eyes. And now that we know that magic is basically embellishments and stuff,
I think you're not supposed to realize that yet, but like I do really love the concept of they introduce the idea of like, oh, magic fixed the vase, and then the vase still gets broken, and it's just like, and
you have to close your eyes for it to work. Like there are more apparent instances of it being a trick later on, but it's just now on a reread you're like, oh, stupid.
Yeah, it's like it's basically spelling it out for you,
Yeah, I don't know what happened with me on my first playthrough, because when I read that thing about the face, I was not deceived. Like, I saw through it. I knew that was, like those kinds of lies you tell to a child, because it's an older woman speaking with a child. It makes sense. You see that all the time in real life. For some reason, I didn't connect the dots about how that would obviously fit into the story, and so I was still deceived all the way through about the main thing.
Ooh, prompt. That's I like that, how it managed to tell you the answer kind of. It gave you enough hints, but it wasn't enough for you to like put together what was really going on further on in the story. There's also the mention that OG Beatrice mentions that her witch master probably has like the endless power to restore the vase for real, and I'm like, so your boss could buy a new vase, I guess?
Oh my god, that's actually, I was actually thinking about this. I was sitting here and thinking about it and be like, who do you think Kumasawa is saying her previous master blah blah is? And I was like, why is he calling it endless witch or something? But like, it actually makes a lot of sense when you just say like, oh, Kumasawa is referring to, it's fine, Kingzo could just buy a new vase.
Yeah.
Because he has endless magic, which I mean by the golden power, which by
endless gold. Oh, Jesus.
Buy a new vase. Like, that's hilarious. That's actually a really good reading of it.
Yeah. And then what was it? Sadness comes from separation and loss, and the best way to prevent that is to revive everything forever, which I think money more or less basically does. But in other words, you can interpret that as endless magic being the power to never move on.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that's kind of why Umineko
Yeah,
happens.
which is I think that line is it's supposed to be written that way to be really flawed, because like that is completely not true. Like, because after she says that, she's like, endless magic could just be preserved, like as in like happiness can be served by endless magic, and immediately it switched scenes to like Beatrice waking up, and Beatrice is like, endless magic is really fucking boring, and I'm already regretting this, because it actually shows like she's like really fucking hate it, like, you know, like it's not a good time.
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to mention this because my friend Dubs wrote this in his notes, which I bolded it because it's really important, because we just have to say EP3 like cousin talking scenes with Shannon is the literal like most fucking telling conversation of all time, right? Like, we agree, right? Like, every single thing they say is like the worst. Like the memory is the key to EP3 is what Dubs wrote, and he wrote, Shannon remembers a lot. Maria only remembers interesting things. Balor, Jessica, George don't remember that well. And then Beatrice is forgetful. And I just think that's insane. Like, Shannon, like, when Shannon's like, the see you again scene. And also, I think it's really interesting because EP3 Battler is very different from EP1 and EP2 Battler. Because in EP1 and 2 Battler, he never knows, like, he doesn't really even notice that, like, George is like dating Jessica. Like, sorry, George is dating Shannon, and Jessica has feelings. Jessica has feelings for Cannon, but like EP3 Battler immediately has the emotional intelligence to realize that.
Yeah.
And I think
yeah.
it's like, and that's really interesting. And like, of course, like in EP3 Battler is more like not emotional, but like emotional open about this. And I think that's a clear sign of how Yasu writes Battler and how Battler writes himself, because like
yeah. Okay. You want one more to add to that?
Sure.
But because I actually noticed Butler diverged a lot from EP1 and EP2 Butler, but in another way. Because in EP1 and 2 Butler, he rejects battle like full force. But in EP3, he's a lot more playful. Let's play with words here a little. Take a jab at you, take a jab at me, Beato, let's play around a bit. So it's just like...
It's way more, yeah.
He's getting to know Beato, getting a bit more comfortable, growing closer. And it's like, it's almost as if, the emotional intelligence, as you said, like, the more you know a person, the more likely you are to notice small things about them. And so it's interesting seeing Meta Butler and Gameboard Butler growing together.
Yeah. However, like, the thing is like, I think it's like very flirtatious the whole time how they talk to each other. But I will have to say, like, if we interpretate this in like, I don't know, quote unquote real world 1998 setting, blah blah blah. Like, I still just think like it's funny how Battler, all the characters written are slightly different from how they're written in EP3. Like, I think, like, Jessica is written in a very hysterical way in EP1 and 2. Like, not saying that she's not, like, she's still a lot in EP3. Like, the whole, like, Jessica arguing with, like, Eva and, like, getting herself blinded by the gun scene. Like, those are very, like, genuinely like emotional, but I just think it's really funny because like in EP2, like Jessica basically has the whole idea of like, I'm gonna kill the culprit, kill them now, but
yeah.
I mean, that still exists in EP3, of course, but yeah.
I gotta say, I didn't realize all this development because I not realize, but I think I like felt it.
I don't think it's easy to read. I don't think it's easy to find out about it at all.
For sure, like, but I felt myself getting more connected with Battler, as much as I hate to admit, because I was getting attached to all the characters and I was straying away from blaming any of the cast members from being the actual culprit. But now that you pointed out, I'm like, oh man, all character development.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole like talking about bring the white horse, pony theory. This is how the beginning of pony theory starts. The whole concept.
Pony theory?
Oh, have you ever heard of pony theory before?
Yes.
No, explain.
I have yet to have heard about it.
It's okay. So this is a part of like all the old theories of Umineko, and one of the theories is pony theory, because at that time people don't really necessarily know what is Battler's like 6-year sin, And the only thing that Bexisig mentions that, like, oh, what could have he forgot? Like, they're like, oh, you forgot something. And that's the only thing that mentioned is in EP3, they say, like, oh, Balor was gonna come back to Shannon with a pony, like a white pony.
White
and he was gonna
horse.
say, yeah, white horse. Well, anyway, white horse. And then the whole theory just hinges on the idea that, like, Shannon wanted a pony, and that's why she kills everybody. Pony theory. That's literally it.
And it ended up being kind of right.
It just makes it, like, only partially right. Like, I mean, like, of course, like, because pony theory involves them not necessarily haven't got the full truth yet, but, like, it's an interesting theory.
It's emotionally there.
Yeah. What else?
What else? Okay, I wanted to touch upon Eva Beato's magic, because I really like all the kinds of magics that are in Umineko, right? You have the endless magic, which is essentially, you know, writing shit forever. You have the golden magic, which can be either having money or let's all agree on this thing and stick with it. You have Virgilia's magic, which she states to be based on belief, which is true, you know, like, believe this vase God fixed, alright? Alright.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, and then you get to Eva Beato's magic, which is like, you have all of these intricate kinds of magics. You also have Maria's magic, which is, you know, from 0 to 1, you know, creating something. And then Eva Beato is just like, you know, let's just believe really hard on this, you know, just believe you can do it, okay, Eva, we'll get there for sure. And it's like, it sounds so naive to just be like, yeah, we'll do this, so we like, as long as you have a strong will. Like, it feels so much like a shonen story. And, like, up until starting to record this episode, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna mention this, and about how this completely, like, shows how naive Eva Beato is, since, you know, it's Eva's more childish side. But when I start thinking about this, you know, like, Higurashi spoilers for a while, let's have a timer on screen, this is like exactly what the certainty from Lambda to Takano is. Just Takano worked really hard. She worked so hard that she achieved certainty that she would succeed. And now that I think about it, that's kind of what Eva Beato is going for. She's kind of going for that same certainty. Which is interesting when you think about the fact that fucking Lambda is sponsoring Beato, and Eva becomes Eva Beato. It's just, there's just so much shit, like,
I mean,
working around to make this.
I showed the screenshot of, like, Eva, just young Eva says, "It will, my magic could be granted any wish with certainty." And I was like, that's really funny.
Yes. There's just so much shit working together. I love Umineko.
Yeah, I think something that we need to, like, keep in mind is that Lambda Delta is now a player now. Like, the end of EP2 kind of sets up that we got a new witch, and we're gonna see how they're gonna mix in with everything in EP3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think, does anybody else have any other thoughts, or should we?
I feel like we are, encroaching onto too long.
Yes, we are.
So I'll just save my other thoughts for later, because I don't know how relevant they are.
Yes, no, just say it. If it's not relevant, we'll just cut it.
Say it.
No, because it was just some really good lines I had for when we covered the later part of the story. So
Okay, do you want to say it so you can remember?
how Sayo's just an edgelord gamer calling all her summons like level 27 demons or magic and stuff.
I'm excited for one day we can finally start talking about how Sayo makes her whole world and her whole magic system, and like how she basically is just writing some like really in-depth medieval fantasy shit right now.
Like a 8th grader, just like.
And how she uses like Maria's toys as as bases for like OCs, and like how Chesta Sisters
pretty much
like how they create Chesta Sisters, how she created all the stakes. Like she really is just writing friend fiction. Like it's just like all the
Pretty
ditches
much.
I hate, gonna write them.
She's writing some RPF.
Yeah, exactly. I mean all of Umineko is RPF. Like if you think about it, like the whole point of
That's
Umineko is RPF, and then so like yeah, it's fucking hilarious. Like like Yasu's like, oh god, I fucking hate all these bitches. It's gonna make them all my underlings and make them like subservient to me.
I forgot to mention I guess when you guys are talking about Lambda having a hand in basically granting Ava the power of miracles or whatever, her witchhood, just like the idea of witchhood being like how young Ava was stubborn and had an obsessive desire to become the head, granted her witchhood. I don't know where I was going with this note, but I just realized, I mean, not just realized, but I think a common theme with witches is that if you really want it, you become a witch.
Yeah.
Like, you have to, like, really, really want it, as you've seen in...
Okay, specifically with Lambda's branch of witchdom.
Yeah.
Which is certainty. If you work hard enough, you will achieve. That's essentially
yeah. Like, Lambda is a hard worker. That's why... Okay, this is gonna be me sitting out here to shit on Go, but this is why I'm still gonna stand by that I think, like, Lambda Delta is Mio is a way better Lambda Delta than Satoko is. Even if Satoko could become a Lambda Delta, I think Mio is the correct brand of stubbornness, because that's why I say Burn Cassell is a fucking dummy, because Lambda Delta's power of certainty and all of her Mikos, basically Battler, Beatrice, even Eva Beatrice, who are all her, like, under her, are people who are, like, basically, if you work hard enough, or if you keep doing it over and over again, you will get it. And, like, that's why I say Burn Cassell's an idiot, because Burn Cassell's a miracle, and her thing is just like, well, if I live through enough loops, one of them will make me live. like it's the one thing out of 1,000 instead of like.
Okay.
Oh, it's
to be fair, Mushroom. To be fair, to protect fucking Bern Castell, I cannot stand you disgracing Bern Castell's great name. All right. To be fair, what we see of Bern is at the end of the loops, alright? After fucking 100 years of loops. We don't know how she was at the start of the loops, okay? Maybe she was a really hard worker. Now she's just fucking tired of life and wants to die, right? It's been like 100 years of shit.
Exactly.
She's been through shit, alright? Give it a rest.
I still think my favorite Twitter thing is just like, I can't believe how Burn Castell's name comes from like fucking wine. It comes from wine. Anyway, I think we're done.
Yes.
See you again.
Have a nice day. See cats, do crimes.
End of Umineko Book Club episode. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll cover more things. I hope we can at least get to like Witches of the Forest.
Oh, for sure. I think we will. It's pretty, yes. It's very exciting. Stay tuned. Please come back. Please come back.
Boy.
We're begging.
I will have to say, like, I think try to imagine them to be more normal people is basically reading EP8. Like, the whole point of EP8 is to reimagining them as like completely nice, lovely, normal people who have bad days, but like are just like.
And we just happen to read 200 hours of the 2 bad days they have.
Exactly. Like basically we're reading the worst days of their lives, like two worst days of their lives over and over and over again. And like
the Ushira Miyas and the very good, no bad, good for nothing day.
Exactly. And like in EP8, like Eva is like really sweet. Like she cares about her family. Like she makes jokes, and she could be kind of quippy and sarcastic, but that's not like her like main personality. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, we see her act like that in the airport in episode 1. Like all the family get together like incredibly well, I guess. But as we've seen. Oh yeah, that's also very true. Like it's actually kind of sad, going back to read EP1, I think I had that feeling exactly, which is that, like, when you just see all the family just, like, kind of joking to each other and talking, and it's, like, really painful to read. Like, right, they subtly mentioned that the conference basically brings the worst out in them. Yeah. Because other than that, they're typical normal people.